Good morning, this is Mindy with Molly's Cupboard. Welcome to my studio. Today we're going to learn how to make a Placemat Traveler's Notebook, also known as a TN. In this particular tutorial, we will be using a Dollar Tree placemat, the thin vinyl ones. To create our little book, we'll be learning how to lace them so that you can slide your inserts in and out and add a closure to our notebook. For today's tutorial, you will need a piece of cardstock or heavy paper to create our template, your placemat, a pen, some type of needle tool to pierce the placemat with. If you don't have one of these fancy little things, a sewing needle works fine. You do want a relatively big one. A pair of scissors to cut our notebook with, a ruler, a little bit thicker pokey tool. This is a knitting needle. It's one of my favorites, but a skewer will work. A sharpened pencil will work. And some elastic lacing. Now this blue one is made by Explorer Journal, and I want to say that I got this at Walmart in the journal section. They're actually starting to build a better section. This thin piece I got from Dollar Tree. This works just as well for thinner inserts. If you're going to use a thicker insert, then you'll want to consider the lacing. For the sake of this video and for keeping everything separate and easy to follow, I will be using two different color lacings. The blue will be to create my jump bands to hold the inserts, and the black will be used for the closure. Please excuse the wobbly tripod. If I do this more often, I'll have to invest in a better product. So you will take your cardstock, and what you're going to do is measure out a section that is 10.5 inches across on the length of the paper and 6.5 inches tall. This is the standard notebook size, and it fits a 4x6 insert. Take your sheet and cut out the basic square or the basic rectangular shape of the notebook cover. Fold it in half and round your edges. This particular template is based off of the Foxy Fix A6. So then, using your ruler on that center line, you're going to mark 2 spots, each 1/4 inch from the edge. So you're going to come down 1/4 inch and mark your first hole. You're going to come up 1/4 inch from the bottom and mark the hole. Then, moving your ruler, you're going to mark a hole on either side of your center hole, 1/4 inch. So each will be 1/4 inch apart. And repeat at the bottom. 1 to the left, 1 to the right of your center mark. Flipping your pattern, you're going to mark the center point on the folded line from your 2 marks right here. This is going to be your closure. With your piercing tool, your needle tool, poke your tool through these holes. And I want to show you a real good tip for working with these very sharp little needle tools here. Place your paper on a folded towel and then press the tool through your holes and into the towels. It goes relatively deep, but trust me, you don't want to get your fingers on that. These are very, very sharp and they slide in very easily. And just go ahead and poke all of your holes. Now you have your template. If your placemat has a label on it, just warm it with a hairdryer and that will lift right off. And then if you need just a little bit of cleaner, fingernail polish remover works really good for the sticky residue. Sometimes they come off really well and sometimes they give you a hard time. To speed up the video, I've already cut mine, but I'm going to show you how real quick. You're going to obviously trace your pattern on here. Mark your holes by pushing your pen right through the holes. It's a very simple pattern and can be used again and again and again, but it's very effective. The placemats cut better with a sharp pair of scissors than with other types of products. However, if you're comfortable with your X-Acto knife or a safety blade, feel free to use it. I just kind of prefer the scissors. You can see where mine doesn't line up, but that's because I turned my pattern over. So after your pattern is marked and you've cut the outside of your placemat out, you're going to poke your holes. Taking your needle tool and setting your vinyl TN, this is your blank, on the towel, push through the holes just like you did on your paper pattern. You want to flip it over and do it again. This is going to help smooth out the vinyl for your holes and to widen the holes a little bit to make them easier to use. You'll want to repeat that at the top and the bottom and your center mark. Then, using your thicker tool, you'll want to poke through the holes. It'll make it a lot easier to lace when your hole's a little bit bigger, but you do not want that hole much bigger than your lacing. So you can kind of see here how close mine are in size. For the center lacing, it's about the same as my tool. In your center hole, you're going to run 2 pieces of string through, so keep that in mind. To lace your lacings, your jump bands, you need 3.5 to 4.5 times the width of your TN, the height. So in this particular case, you'll want to measure like so before you cut it. Mine's going to be a tiny bit short, but it's what I had on hand. So starting the lacing process, you'll want to come down past the center hole, hold your lacing. You're going to run the other end through the center hole at the top. If it doesn't fit very easily, just make it a little bit bigger, because you're going to, in the center, you're going to run 2 lacings through there anyway. Then you're going to come back through the left top hole and come up. And this is what it's going to look like from that side. Come down to the bottom and go through the left bottom hole. Don't pull that too tight because it gets kind of a pain to work with if it's bent up and bowed. You're going to come up through the center hole, pull your lacing over, and we're going to go back down through this hole. And what I do to facilitate that is I'll usually run my tool right through the same hole, you see, the same hole, to stretch it a little bit, and then I'll push it through. This is not always the easiest process. Sometimes it takes a little bit of fussing with. And it's just going to be really stubborn because we're on video and time is of the essence here. Okay, but there we go. And if your lacing begins to fray, just take a lighter and hold it very lightly against the end of the lacing. And I've got mine all tangled up here. Be careful it doesn't lace, that it doesn't go through underneath the lacing. You want those to be nice and straight to put them through. Again, I want to apologize for the bobbing and weaving of the camera. I have kind of a snake-like tripod, and it's really very tall, and it's just not very stable. Okay, so you can see the two laces here. You're going to come back up through the back on the right. And come down to the hole on the right. And you can kind of, these have a tendency when you stretch the holes to kind of close in on itself again. So sometimes you just have to do it several times. Okay. Now, you see how it's starting to pull and curl? That's kind of what I meant by don't pull it too tight, because then it wraps up on you and it's a little harder to work with. Now we're going to flip this back over, and we're at the bottom of the TN. And we're going to come back through the center hole here, just like we did on the other side. So stretch your hole out a little bit. And press your lacing through. If I wasn't recording this, I would be taking a little more time to make each step perfect, but the longer the video is, the harder it is to upload to YouTube. So, okay, and we're going to pull it up. You can adjust your bands. You want them to be slightly taut, like the center one is. And it's going to take some working to get them all a little bit tight. And you want enough room in the center to tie these laces. So be patient and work with it. It really is worth it in the long run. And okay, so as you can see, with just a little bit of working, I've gotten mine just a little bit more closer in length to work with. The There is a little bit of a bow in this, probably a little bit more than I like, so I want to release some of, just a tiny bit of the tension on the strings. But again, you do want them snug, because otherwise your inserts are going to be loose and want to fall out, and they don't hold tight or pretty. It makes a difference in the appearance of your book, but also the inserts will not want to stay in as you move your book around. Okay, so I think I'm about happy with this. Maybe tighten up that left one a little bit. That center one, rather. It takes some working. Be patient with it. I promise you'll be happier for working with it than by speeding through it. Okay, so you can see where mine are now. And just take and make yourself an overhand square knot. Don't tighten this one up too much, because it'll undo all the bowed work that you just did. And tie it off. Don't trim these until you're finished, because you want to adjust it at some point in the process. This should probably be a little bit tighter, but I think I have enough string here. I'm going to try and fudge it and make my closure. Now, when you get them finished, as you can see here, I just trimmed them kind of short, and it's going to hide inside one of your inserts if you use it as a fourth band. If you only use the third band, you can hide that behind the inserts altogether. But I just kind of like to use two thin inserts in the center. Now for the closure, you're going to take and put your two pieces together. And this is kind of the one I was telling you about you might want to hit with a lighter, but I don't have one here in my studio, surprisingly. So I'm just going to trim them. Okay, loop it together. Depending on your lacing, you can put either end through the hole, but I tend to prefer to try and push my loop through the hole in the center. Move your laces to the side, and we're going to push our lacing through. Okay, let me use the sharper one. Really do be careful when you're using your needle for this, because like I said, they're very sharp, and they move faster than we give them credit for. So we're pulling this through. You're going to close your book, and you kind of want to hold it like this, because this is what it's going to be like when your inserts are in, and loop your closure around it. Then, reaching on the inside, snug it up. And you see it's nice and pretty and snug. Continue to hold it inside, and then pull the band off. And that's where you're going to knot it. Knot it and trim it so that it fits. And this is what it's going to look like. Again, this hides. So these inserts are for the B6, but they'll give you an example of how they're going to fit in your little notebook and in your bands. Just going to open it up. Some people open it to the center of the book. I tend to go one page off center because the staples show. But your jump band will cover the staples too. Remember when you make your inserts to try and close your staples so that the back is on the back of the insert. It is not as pretty in your insert, but I found that those ends will fray in time over your elastics. So they hide in the notebook. And remember, this is a snug fit because it's not the right insert. But you see how you loop that through. Okay? And that's how to load your TN. So this is it. This is the TN that you just created. And mind you, I'm going to put the blue one in there. So I hope that this answered any questions you may have had. And feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.